Welcome back, everybody, to an inquiry series, A Way Through with Michelle Terrill-Heath, where we discuss a lot of her topics on Substack and also from her book, Your Wildest Dreams. Go live your wildest dreams and check out that book as soon as you possibly can. Google it, do whatever you can. I'm with Michelle right now. We're talking about her last Substack, Michelle, which is coming home after these long trips that you had with Andy and talking all about the challenges. And so I'd like to just dive right in and say, welcome home. How does it feel to be back?
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, the Substack that I wrote, the things that I really had fun with were thinking about what makes home home. And it feels amazing to be back. And the reason it feels amazing is because of all the things Andy and I have created here to make this place resonate to us as a home place. And Andy used to have a saying that I really liked when people would talk about something going wrong in their home or wanting to be in another area, like if you live at the mountains, wanting to be at the seashore, or if you live in a city, wanting to be in a more, rural environment. And Andy would say, "Well, what's wrong? Why do you have to have only one home? I don't understand." And people would be like, "Well, because I can't afford more than one home." And that's when Andy would be like, and I would say, "But a house isn't a home. A home is a place where you're home.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be a big fancy house. It doesn't have to be a house at all." And so
Let me
coming
just
home felt great.
go ahead, go ahead. Sorry. I just
Coming home felt great. And being home feels great. And what I want to say is anyone can make a home wherever they are.
and what the listeners may or may not understand right now is how much has gone into the home that you're staying at right now in Taos, New Mexico. There's a whole journey that you can find in the book called Your Wildest Dreams, a Parkinson's story,
Yes.
and you will find it so fascinating, and who's listening, because Michelle, just talk a little. I mean, you found land, Andy and you were building a home, then you had kids. I mean, it was a whole. Maybe give us a little glimpse of the book, what goes as in the book, because that might be kind of a cool time now where people can hear
Yeah.
what you write about.
Good idea. Well, the thing is, Andy and I lived for many, many years uh, without kids, and then with kids, without a stationary home. So, we lived in a lifeboat, and we lived in a tree house, and we lived seasonally in different places, and we lived in our main home was a camper on a pickup truck. That's where Brendan was born in, and we traveled really the country that way, earning our living. And then we decided we really liked that idea of a boat, so a boat was a home for a while. Um, and we moved a lot to different places, so we couldn't find our home within a building. That wasn't what was available to us for many, many years, and our home became the people we were with and what we created wherever we were. So when we pull into a state park in our camper, um, you know, all remember special state parks that we'd go back to year after year. One was was in South Carolina at the beach, and it was in a state park. I think it was called Atalaya State Park, and it was on the ocean, and home became a campsite, really. And we'd set up our jewelry making, polishing machines, and we would work, and the kids would have school, and we would home became sort of um, the rituals and um, the patterns that we were able to do. Home became waking up somewhere beautiful and being outside a lot and working and doing school and making great meals in a little tiny camper kitchen, and meeting the people who were around us became our neighbors, and, for that week or a couple weeks, and then we'd go somewhere else. So, I just really love the idea that home can mean a lot more than a house.
Let's go ahead and tie that into in the Substack, you mentioned your mother and father. I think there was a piece about your mother being, what are the reasons that are make home so nice? And I think you mentioned neighbors and the school, right? And coming back to familiar faces. And then there was a mention about a magnolia tree as well. Um, and then What I kind of want to go with right now a little bit is the difference between nomadic and stationary. You meant stationary home now where you are, but you were nomadic for a while. The human species was nomadic most of the time until we settled down and civilization became stationary, right? So, in some ways, you embodied a lot of what indigenous wisdom cultures embody, a lot of what humanity embodied for a long time. Maybe, tell us the difference. Why is stationary working now rather than nomad? Although you do have many homes, you do travel a lot, as we just saw from the last subtext. But just for the listeners, because there's something there about nomadic and
Yep.
stationary, and you've lived them, so we want to hear from from the fountain, from the mouth, the horse's mouth. Yeah.
Well, when we were nomadic, meaning we were moving all the time, really, regularly, seasonally. Um, we would go places for certain reasons and that were, our choices were affected by the weather. So we would enter art shows where the weather was nice in Texas in April and May, and then we would move across the country over to the East Coast and the Midwest in, the June, July, August when it got too hot in Texas, and we would then, you know, carry that on in the fall. We'd go down to Florida when it was cool down there, but it was starting to get, maybe cold and gray in, like, November, and so, and then in the winter, we would come back to New Mexico usually or go to Hawaii and be skiing. Yeah. So so the so the nomadic part was purposeful and fun, and now the stationary part is, also purposeful and fun because 'cause we've been able to create a home here where we can do, our different, um, lives that we're living right now, one with disease, one as a, new author career type of person, and with our kids in all different places, it gives us a lot of freedom having a home base, and that's what Andy used to call home base, and we grew up with that, you know, our kids, you grew up with that. Have a home base, don't necessarily create that place into the only home you could possibly imagine, and it just gives a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Most people that I talk to about this go immediately into the affordability of all this. And, "Oh, well, if you're rich, you can have 16 homes all over the world." But that's not what I'm talking about. That is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about going different places and feeling at home and making places your home rather than, having to buy a big building and pay taxes on it and do all this stuff.
Yeah, I guess one is an investment in one place, and then the other is an investment in many places on the planet. Because in the Substack, one part here I'll just read, you were like, you guys drove up to the house, 3 miles up that bumpy dirt road, and then you hauled your suitcases in, and you felt enormous joy because you had seen all of the changes that happened in just 10 days. Like, the garden was growing that you invested in, all the things had been going on, and so there's an investment, I guess, of time and energy and whatever that you do come back to, and you reap the rewards of those fruits of your labor, I suppose, in
Definitely.
some sense.
Now I'm going to turn it around for a minute and ask you a question.
Watch out.
Because since we've, adopted you, since I've adopted you into my family, and you've chosen to be adopted into our family,
Mhm.
uh, you've lived a lot of places too. And before that, when you were a child, you also lived a lot of different places, but it wasn't such a happy thing. It was a hard thing because your mama had to move for difficult reasons, not because she loved it here or loved it there, but because she couldn't make it or something had happened bad or whatever. You were moved around, and you talked about being yanked out of schools and things like that. So in this, having gone from that to choosing to live in different places, a very successful modeling career where you were traveling all over doing living being in different places. Um, did our family's ability to live in different places affect you when we were kind of falling in love with each other and figuring out adoption or not?
Oh, what a good
And
question.
if so, how did that affect you?
Oh, what a really great question, and I am not was not totally prepared for this. This is totally authentic and a very vulnerable place to step into, so thank you for that. I think immediately there was just a resonance, right? Because I felt like I had met people who understood me, which was really important because, when you tell people, "Oh, yeah, I lived in different foster care families and I've never had a home," I don't know where I grew up home and any of that stuff. And, you guys really just got that. I think you just and most people would look at me like I was an alien, so that was always very difficult, and you feel kind of, like you're marginalized and no one understands you. So there was immediate resonance of, wow, these people really get it. They've lived it. I think there was also a sense of adventure that you guys brought into my life too, like particularly you, Michelle, because it was like, yeah, like we don't have one home, we have several homes. And I was like, oh, that's a much better story box shift. You know what I mean? I was thinking, oh, I was abandoned all the time. No, I actually got a chance to live in many different places. It's a total, like, psychological shift that you gave. I would also say, going a little bit further outside of the box of this question is how important it is to feel at home. Um, for me, that was sort of the thing that was my saving grace. I had a lot of homes, and I think being adopted was a time where I really felt like I started to experience and count on, learn, understand what home was, that it was stable, that no matter how you felt like you were rejected, you were always welcomed. No matter what emergency happened, you always had a place to run back home to. These were things that I never understood. All of my homes were always kind of like contingent on me belonging or being owned in some way or like, and you guys gave that to me. So I have learned what home is like no one's business. And I could probably talk about this for the rest of our entire time. So thanks for asking me that question, Michelle. And I hope I answered in a way that really okay. I want to kind of just say something that's really troubling a lot of people right now that I think if anyone's listening to this, particularly the younger generation, is the inability to get a home right now. So many people are struggling in every city I know. I live in Amsterdam, in New York and also Los Angeles, San Francisco, where Brendan is. Like nobody can find a home right now.
London, Lana
Yeah,
Hills,
one
yep,
is
and even New Mexico, it's all become short-term rental. Yep.
so, as somebody who has lived a creative life, who has the ability to help people live their wildest dreams, what would you say to people who want a home, like myself when you guys adopted me, but can't afford it, don't know how? There are other options, it seems like. You lived them, and I think that would benefit some listeners for sure.
I would say that if you can look deep inside you and ask yourself, um, even if you had a beautiful house somewhere, what about that house would make you feel at home? Is it that you really want a certain type of land to be on? Is it that you wanna be in a certain type of environment or a certain type of temperature, season, you know? And a lot of people feel very stuck when they have a job because they're making it, and it's very scary to think that maybe you have to stay in that job forever because you can't whatever forever means, because you can't, move to anywhere else because you're just kinda stuck in the situation. So, I would say, yeah, that those are real fears and real issues. I'm not trying to minimalize those. They're very serious in our world right now. That said, we all have freedom in our inner worlds. And so if we can tap into our inner world wherever you are. I've read beautiful books. I have not written any of this, but about where people make a sacred space within wherever they are. Whether they're in a homeless tent on the street or whether they're in an apartment rental on a next to a busy highway or whether they're in a cabin somewhere, you know, in nature. Make a sacred spot with a few items that bring you home. Whether it's a crystal or a rock that you found once somewhere or somebody gave to you or a feather or a book that really made you, see the light in certain ways, or, whether it's a piece of clothing or a item of a family member or a photograph, making a sacred area within wherever you are. And if you don't have the ability to actually have it be a physical, you can do it inside. And you can really imagine your sacred altar, sometimes people call them altars, with things that give you strength and make you feel the strength of home. And that's what I would recommend.
In your Substack, you say, if you come home and don't feel joy, I hope you consider what is missing for you and find a way to include that into where you live. So while we end this conversation, I want everyone to go back to that Substack. Hopefully, if you're listening to this, or just comment on this video, share what makes your home right for you, because that's, I think it'd be nice to get a nice little, brainstorm among everyone. And because you're right. I mean, home is where your heart is, right? A lot of you
Yep.
hear that.
The old saying.
And
But one other thing, or if you share what it makes your home right for you, but also you could share what makes your home wrong for you. Because if you look at what's wrong, you'll be able to fix it, correct it, change it. If you don't notice what makes you not feel at home, you won't necessarily, find what does.
I mean, I could go down that. I like that because I like to point out problems. That is like accessibility, affordability, equity. There's all kinds of things going on in our society right now that make me enraged about people not being able to have a home, but you're right. I think the idea of home right now and coming home, feeling at home are all things that are coming into context for the humanity, particularly with the refugee crisis, particularly with the wars going on and everyone being displaced. I think with COVID as well, working from home.
Yep.
So I think that's really coming into view right now. So I actually would consider that one of this is like one of our probably our best conversations, because everyone should be thinking right now, who are the people you want to be around with? What does home mean to you? What makes a home? You are actually a vessel, a home for God's spirit,
For your spirit.
for
Yep.
a journeying in the cosmos. So, and then of course our planet as a whole in the cosmos is a home. So, anything else you'd like to say real quick?
No, just I love this conversation.
I do too.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening, guys. Don't forget to comment, like, share, subscribe, and join us for a journey as we find a way through on these inquiry series. We're so appreciative to have you and hope you're listening to this in a nice place at your home, wherever you are.